Yeah, I know that one got everyone in the mood to talk about the great club we all chose to support, man. But today I've got a different conversation for you guys. Today's about Liverpool's future. Today is not talking about the next transfer window, summer, the January after that. It's about the next era, the next 6, 10, whatever years there is left under maybe this manager. I don't know. Let's see how long he lasts first. But whatever is left, I want to know where our heads at, man, in terms of teams, in terms of, signings, in terms of style of play. So many different conversations. Does the academy get more involved? Are we going to start producing some ballers and sending them to the first team? Here to discuss it with me today, man. Errol, big up to you, bro. First and foremost, for taking the time out for us to chop this up, man.
I appreciate it. And again, apologies. The lateness isn't on Endz, people. It's on me. So I have to hold that one, man. We've just been running around like a headless chicken for the longest. But hopefully it'll all pay off and it'll all be worth it in the end. But we're here, we're live, we're direct. And I'm actually looking forward to this conversation. I know we've just briefly touched on it and in terms of how you want the conversation to go. And I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have because I know earlier in the week there was muted kind of speculation that Bayern Munich had been back in touch with Florian Wirtz and people from his corner have basically come out and said, look, he plans on playing the majority of his career now at Liverpool, which is always nice to see. It's reassuring when people come out and kind of make those statements, whether they're just playing the game or that is the genuine intention. As we know, we've all been kind of sold little white lies before, but I think it's definitely a good time to start like unpacking and starting to consider how does this Liverpool team now continue to build and ultimately what direction do they look to build in the next, what version of Liverpool? Because I don't know if you're like myself, I think going into this season in particular after winning the league, I believe I was probably one of the type of fans that was like, I want to usher in an era of dominance.
Same.
And maybe that was my lofty ambitions, but do the club have the same level of ambition? What kind of direction? So I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm sure we'll.
And I think there's only one place to start. Really, it's to talk about maybe Arne Slot's era going forward, and what I've seen lately in terms of press conference. It feels like he's a man speaking about the future in terms of what the next steps are, instead of a man that's worried about potentially what his job role looks like or if he's going to be moved on. It just feels like, look, we're planning to execute this in the summer. We're planning to execute this going forward. The football that we want, the fans want to see, we're starting to bring that back. It feels like he's settling in again. Maybe the conversations between him and the higher ups have kind of gone, look, we know we've struggled this season. We know it's not the best thing we've done, in terms of from a Liverpool standpoint, but we're willing to kind of wipe the slate clean and go into next season, and we'll give you the backing if needs be. But I think I want to start there as well in terms of what does the future look like on the Arne Slot? If we not forget this season, maybe forgive this season. Maybe that's the word I'm going to use for this one.
Definitely. I think, the manager had credit in the bank this season, and I don't think anybody expected him to pretty much be in his overdraft by November and December and them things, but he had credit in the bank at one point. You know what I mean? So I do believe that he had a 2 to 3 to maybe even a 5-year plan in mind in terms of where he wants to take the evolution of this Liverpool team. And unfortunately, we've had more hiccups this season that have prevented us from feeling. I think at one point, as I say there, I don't think anyone expected him to be in his overdraft, but then I also think at one point he turned us from believers to doubters again. Might be fair to say, without being too harsh on him. I think there was a lot of doubts around, not necessarily the club, but in terms of, is he the right fit for the club at this moment in time? I think there's been a steadying of the ship to a certain degree. I think obviously the safe passage in the Champions League has kind of been a factor in that. I also think obviously the FA Cup now presents an opportunity for him to at least go on to push for silverware still. So there's still opportunities in this season. Is not a complete write-off by any means. And I've watched Liverpool for a number of years, and by this point in the season, we're just waiting for next season to start. We're waiting for the summer. There's nothing to play for. We're already out of the FA Cup by the fourth or fifth round. We wasn't even in the Champions League to begin with. The League Cup, we was nowhere near it, and we've got no chance at the Prem. So we're hoping, that we can try and get back into Europe by some miracle. So we're not in our worst ever season. There have been a massive amount of extenuating circumstances for this season, which is why I think, added to his credit in the bank, he's probably rightfully going to get the remainder of the season now by hook or crook, whatever.
Yeah.
And then thereafter, when you're looking at the future, I think there's still a level of strategic surgery that needs to be applied within the squad. So I do believe that there are additions that need to come into this squad now to rejuvenate the squad, bolster it, give us a different dimension in some departments. And I'm not the type of content creator or fan that, like, I used to love it when I was heavily into FIFA, and you used to just gems here, there, and those days are gone for me now. So even players like Hugo Ekitike coming in the summer, I knew nothing about his profile. I didn't know. Like Florian Wirtz, okay, he was on my radar. I was on to him, obviously.
Flow's been flowing for a minute.
So yeah, Flo, do you get me? Flo's been flowing, doing his thing. So I struggle more now to be like, I want this player, or I think that person's a gem, because I don't really watch lives. I watch Liverpool. Do you get me? I love footy. I watch Liverpool. So I hope that the hierarchy within the club continue to give him the resources that he's going to need in terms of the player and personnel in order to do his job. But then there are things that I would like to see personally. So just for an example, and I'll pass it over to you then to see if you're kind of thinking on the same wavelength. What options have we got in the academy at the moment? Because Jurgen Klopp was very much a champion of giving young players opportunities. It's one area where I've looked at Slot, and not to say that I've been overly critical and he had to hang his hat on starting Rio game in, game out, but the opportunities for Rio have been few and far between. Now, I don't think that's just Slot's issue, but I think it's a squad issue that the squad haven't been able to curate the type of games often enough that Rio would then be able to get starts, get more minutes, get more appearances. So he's had to be very sparing in his ability to be able to play somebody like Rio. But what about the likes of Jayden Danns? We've got, James McConnell. There are a couple of other young players that have been in and around for a number of years, even under Jurgen Klopp at times, where you think, okay, Stefan Bajcetic, is he going to come back? We let out Tyler Morton, we sold him obviously to Leon, but like certain players, does Jarell Kwanzaa come back with the buyback clause? Conversations of that kind of, we always go into the market to get external solutions.
Yeah.
Where are the internal answers and surprises that are going to start showing potential in the next couple of years? And when they do start to show potential, are they going to be trusted? Are they going to be given the platform? That's one. The second big thing that I mean,
go on.
No, I'll just say the second thing that quickly was European, and that was my thing this season. Like, what do we become European wise? And I think a lot of that is going to ride on how Liverpool finish this season. But that then goes back to the points I made about the ambitions of the hierarchy in the next 2 to 3 years. If they're building a new version of this, because our teams hit the peak, and the players hit the peak at the right time. The Fabinhos, the Firminos, the Hendersons, the Genies, the Virgils, the Manes, the Salahs. They hit the peak at the right time. We got rid of the ones that fell off. We've kept the ones that we wanted to keep for as long as possible. But that was at the very top, slowly coming down. We have a top now that I've seen that ceiling. Do we get back to that ceiling with new players? Florian Wirtz dragging us, Hugo Ekitike, Szoboszlai dragging us to that. And can we go above that? Because that ceiling to me was your Champions League, finals, trophies, Premier League, title races. We was at the bottleneck of every competition, season on season, for 3 to 4 years. If Liverpool can get that recipe right again, that's the level of ambition I want. Or do they think if we fall out of the Champions League, is it more a case of we need to be a competitive cup team in the mould of the old, not even old school Chelsea, but Chelsea of a couple of years ago hardly ever went a season where he wasn't in and around a cup final. And that's what was kind of giving them relevance and relative success.
I agree. There were some great points you made there as well. But you know what? I want to strip it back, because you're right. In terms of under Klopp, there was academy players there that you could bring in and they could play well and they look good, and it felt like we were in tune. The first team and the academy was in tune. But I want to strip it back and go, the reason why it looked that way is because the identity was clear. So how Liverpool wanted to play and how we wanted to move forward as a team, it meant any player that you could have just plucked a player off the street and gone, I want you to do Genie role. Everyone understood what Genie role was.
And I think that for me, that was, I always used to use the analogy that it was like Liverpool's first team is full fat Coke. But you start peppering in the youngsters and getting them to play, and it's Coke Zero. So it might not hit the same, and it might not be that. But for all intents and purposes, it's a very similar product. There's not too much change. You might change a couple of ingredients, but the core philosophy, the identity, as you said, all of that is still, the DNA runs from the academy right through to the senior team. And I think for a very long time, that was something that Klopp took a lot of pride in with the club, was making sure that there was a continuity from the senior team to the academy team, which allowed them to understand the roles, and which did enable us to field second string teams, weaker squads or weaker 11s that still played in that image of what a Jurgen Klopp side played in.
You think that's the problem now that Arne Slot has, that he hasn't made it clear of his identity?
I think it's not necessarily he hasn't made it clear of his identity. I think new profiles coming in will now ultimately change the direction of the overall identity. And I think we're not at that final phase, if that makes sense.
It's that problem though, Errol. If you haven't got a way of playing, right? So because we're looking at what the future looks like. We know that we got some techie baller. Verts is there, Ekatike is there. You can add some next players into it if you feel like as well. But do you think now, when we're signing players, if there's no clear identity of how you want to play, do you not see that might hinder that future, what we're looking at the moment?
Yeah, no, I get it, but I think the plan is to have the identity in a particular way. I just don't think we formulated, like, Klopp had his spine that gave him the ability, and it started, for me, it all started with Mane. Mane was a menace on that right-hand side. By the end of that first season, Mane was that good and versatile that he was able to go over to the left-hand side. But he had Bobby. Bobby then became the link, because Bobby was able to then feed off Mane and Salah. So there was the front sorted. Midfield-wise, we already had the makeup of that midfield after losing the Champions League final. We go and all of a sudden now that midfield has got the anchor point. We had enough of a disciplined captain in Henderson understanding his role that he was a servant to the rest of the team in order to get the most out of it. So that was fine. Then defensively, it was like, right, we need the keeper and we need, Verge to be the glue for that defensive partnership. And then obviously the fullbacks are, going through levels and just progressing and getting better and better. So I think he had the foundation that he wanted to set, and then he added things in and around it. The likes of Naby Keita, we thought it was going to take us somewhere else into a different direction. It didn't quite work, but we still had the identity, so we didn't lose anything. He was meant to add something, but we definitely didn't lose anything. I think we are at a point where there's been a bit of a passing of the guard, and some of the new players that have come in, even though they are going to be crucial players to the overall system once I feel like it's fleshed out, they aren't the linchpins. So I always refer to, whether or not the KE situation now is, a point of concern or regret for Liverpool. If he was going to be, or his profile was going to be the linchpin to enable us to play three at the back with wing backs, I think there was a misstep by not getting that person in to be able to do it. Does that mean now we delay that plan for circa 12 months because we didn't do that business in January either? And did we have too much going on to say we'll go back to August's plan, get that person in, and then try and start meddling? Or has he now just realised, I've got to work with what I've got and I've got to make the best out of this current situation and try and rescue?
Do you think that's like an evolution, or or is that a reset?
I think that we're almost, you're at that point where it doesn't really matter whether it's an evolution or a bit of a reset, really. I think there's a new iteration that is required, because ultimately I think we need that new spine, and then on top of the spine goes the system. That's my way around of doing it. If you've got the personnel to play a particular system, then you put that system in once you've got the spine of that. You add the extra sauce and the extra recipes over on top, or the extra ingredients on top, sorry. And then from there, you've got the blueprint to then pass down. I think we've got parts, but we haven't got the whole vehicle right now. So I think there's a little bit of where there's a little bit of disconnect between the first team, and again, the profile of players that were brought in, they might not necessarily been what we would have been stockpiling in the first team. So the players in the first team, you know, new players within the academy now are probably redefining their roles a little bit. They're probably looking at Hugo Ekitike, how he plays and has his hold-up play and links in with the midfield and with Florian Wirtz. They're probably looking at Florian Wirtz's game a little bit more closely, and they're probably looking to see, all right, a couple of seasons ago, we was making midfielders to be like Jordan Henderson, Dominic Szoboszlai, Alexis McAllister. Out of all those now that I've kind of got to that good level, is there anyone that's versatile enough to now not necessarily end up like Curtis Jones, but end up a more advanced Harvey Elliott? Is there somebody now that we can start plucking out that is going to be, you know, can Jaden Dans do Alexander Isak's role, or can he do Hugo Ekitike's role? What kind of forward can he be now when we build up some of our young wingers around him, the likes of a Rio and whatnot? So I think from a perspective of the academy, I still think they're in safe hands, because I think the overall style and system has benefited them and suited where they've been at. I think the next iteration, it's going to have to be fully embedded once the first team has got a very clear identity, and I am still not convinced that identity is established, and I don't think it will be this season. I'm okay with that now. I think I accept that the Liverpool I wanted us to be this season will not really. I might see signs and glimpses, but I'm not going to see a body of work of it. And next year, that'll be where I expect, okay, all right, well, if that was transitioning, what we were transitioning into, we had to have a little bit of a hibernation period and a cool-off period. But next season,
cooling off.
we have to bring in the right level of players that enables him to execute his identity, and only at that point will we know if he can do it at the top level, or if he's going to struggle.
I think, look, he for the future, right? I'm with you now. I think I've kind of resided to the fact that he's going to be here at least to the end of the season. Am I going to see the best version of Liverpool Football Club up until that point? Probably not. I have to wait and see what the summer looks like, what pre-season looks like, and going forward into the future, and seeing what players we might even sign to help out the squad in what you said. If I'm looking at, is it a reset? I think it's a reset, because we were so used to a style of play under Klopp, and we've now gone and kind of scrapped and pulled apart the fabrics that made us that Klopp high-intensity team, and now we want to be this, not slow, but we want to be a team that will get one chance and put it away. We're not trying to do the volume thing where it's 10 shots in a game and we're scoring. If we can get that in a game, yes, great, we can do that. But we're trying to control games. We're trying to look after the games and trying to look after players' fitness and stuff. Like, from what I've seen him say and from how I've seen us play, is that what I like? Probably not. But then again, if we're winning games and the goals are good and the build-up play is good and the system looks good, then I think I can then start to learn it and start to understand it and start to go, do you know what? I'm accepting of this, because this is going to bring us into that new era, that new way of playing for Liverpool. But you mentioned the spine a couple of times, and I think that's a great conversation to have, because we're going forward into the future now, and the spine of our team is Alisson at the moment, Virgil, Salah. Would you add anyone else to that at the moment in terms of that's your?
To me, I am a literal spine guy. So my thing is like, I will see it from the front to the back. Like that middle of the pitch, that's what I'm looking at. So
cool.
You've got, I don't even count Salah as the spine of the team. He might be an important part of the side, but he's not part of the spine of the team. And the spine is the leading from the front, the defending from the front, the pressing from the front. So I don't necessarily think I don't necessarily think Alexander Isak is the best at that, but I think Hugo Ekitike might be better. I think he's been given the opportunity. I think he's proven himself so far this season. So I think he's integral to it. I see Dominic Szoboszlai as an integral member of that spine. I see Gravenberch as a question mark. And what I mean by a question mark is he is part of that spine, whether he's the CDM or he moves over to that left-hand side. Depending on what happens with Alexis McAllister in the summer after the World Cup, it will be interesting to see. Because if we have two of the spine already in that midfield, it just depends whether it's going to be a DM or a left-sided midfielder. Dominic Szoboszlai, he should just be there. Obviously, you've got Florian Wirtz in front of them as well. Sorry. And then I think, obviously, we're kind of hoping that the new lad comes in alongside Verge, the defender, and he is part of that future spine. I think Mamardashvili. So I look past Alisson in that respect. I see that as the spine. And for me, the challenge is, can Hugo Ekitike, can Florian Wirtz, can Dominic Szoboszlai, Ryan Gravenberch, is it Jeremy? Is the defender's name? Is it Jeremy?
Jeremy Frimpong or
No.
Jacquet?
Jeremy Jacquet, yeah. And then Mamardashvili. Can those 6 players,
right?
So there's still 5 other players that are going to complement this team in some capacity, but can them 6 players that we expect to be the mainstay with Liverpool starting 11 in a year's time, 2 years' time, look at what the previous spine did and go, we can be as good as that, if not better.
Obviously, it's a difficult question to ask now and for you to even answer it, to be fair, in terms of, do you look at those guys now and go, they've got enough quality to hit close to those heights? Because you're trying to replace an Alisson that's been one of the best goalkeepers in the world for years. You're trying to replace the best defender I've seen, in my own opinion, in Virgil van Dijk. You're also going to try and replace one of the best wingers you've seen, not only from a Premier League standpoint, but from a world stage, in Salah, in terms of the goals and the assists that he's able to get. When you look at those players you just named, so you've gone Ekitike, the Isaks, Wirtz, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, Jacquet, maybe Kanate is still here, I don't know yet, and then Mamardashvili. Do you look at them at the moment? But I know it's going to be difficult to go, 100%. But what do you think? Could they hit those heights or not?
Maybe give us a bit of a reality check. I agree with everything that you've just said about the players you've just mentioned, by the way. Wholeheartedly agree in that. But opposition fans, particularly City fans, United fans maybe, they're first to say, well, they've got the best goalkeeper, they've got the best defender, they had the best right back, they had the best left back, got the best winger. They still only won 1 Prem in 6 or 7. Do you know what I mean? So I agree that the quality was there within the players you just mentioned, and I do believe we've had best in class. But I do think a little bit of luck goes a long way as well. And those lads have been pretty... They'll be happy when they look back at the end of their careers, I imagine. Do you know what I mean? They've had some high highs, but they've been unlucky as well, and they've missed out. And maybe it softens the blow when you lose out to one of the best City teams and one of the best... You know what I mean? The year that City went to win it, and then we won the Champions League, we had to win. We knew we had played like champions all season. We couldn't not be lifting some level of silverware. So, yes, City can win a Prem, but we're lifting the champs. The following year now, we're lifting the Prem. So, I think luck, excuse me, I think luck plays a big part in it. And, Dominic Szoboszlai's already got 1 Prem under his belt. He might not necessarily have to have the same level of competition from a City side or a Arsenal team. He might not hit the same heights that previous City sides have. He might stay with Liverpool for another 5 years. He might win another 2 Prems. All of a sudden, he has more Prems than Virgil van Dijk. So, but did he ever hit the heights of individual qualities? Do you know what I mean? So it would be very difficult. But as a collective, I'll be honest, I wouldn't want them at my club if they didn't think they could. Like, lad, right, let's deep it down, yeah? Because I know you're like this. We had Luis Suarez, lad. You have somebody like that's an absolute freak of nature, and then you're getting signed. You've got to believe you can do mad numbers like him, for people to love you off. Mane did it. Salah did it. Do you get me? Before Louis, we had Torres. Before Torres, we had, Owens and Fowlers and all these players. So, it should be an honour that people are saying, do you think you can be as good as... Yeah, well, why can I not be? And if they didn't have that individual belief that they could be as good, you're not right for my club then, bro, because every time I thought it doesn't get lad, I'll be honest, it couldn't get better than Torres for me when I was a kid, because I was like late teens, 15, 16, 17s, late teens. Couldn't get better than Torres. By 13, 14,
Yeah,
bro.
Suarez and
I
Sturridge.
wear on a madness, the SAS. I wear that at the time, 2010, devastated by 13, 14, couple of years later. I wasn't bothered, do you know what I mean? So, and then again, I lost Suarez, we had Coutinho, like players will come and go, but the ambition of the players that come in next has to be as hungry and as even maybe delusional that they can still hit the heights of previous. Dominic Szoboszlai is now, the Hungarian Steven Gerrard. Okay, you might never reach Steven Gerrard's heights, but you've got to be delusional and believe that you can, because only by doing that you've got a chance.
He said he wants to make his own. He said he wants to make his own history, doesn't he? He wants
to. And I rate that. You know what I mean? I fully rate that mentality. So for me, I'm not writing them off individually. I think it's a tall order to ask for them to be best in class individually in those conversations for the length of time that Alisson and Salah has done. I think they might be once in a lifetime for us where we see players that good at that point. But there's nothing to say that these lads might not be more successful and pick up more silverware collectively if luck goes their way, if squad building goes right. We get the rub of the green and the injury permitting, and we've got a good injury and fitness record. They could end up being more successful on paper. And it's not to say that I've seen the quality, but I have seen enough from these players that they believe they are as good or could be as good as the previous peak. And that's enough for me to be like, well, I'm invested in you then. I'm invested in Dominic Szoboszlai being that guy. I'm invested in Hugo Ekitike. Because I can't wait. Like right now, it's nice to see glimpses of Hugo being Torres-esque, Henry-esque and all the rest of it. But I'm like, I can't wait till he's got the body of work and he's done it in big Champions League games and he's done it in against the top sixes.
You don't want that arrogant.
I can't wait till he's done it. So I'm like, he is him. There's no ifs, but like he's eclipsed already the goal return. That's what Torres had done. He's hunting down, like, and he started to see him going up the goal numbers and all. I'm thinking, yeah, he's a serious guy. Like, I can't wait till we've got that body of work. I'm seeing glimpses, and it's nice to have them in the conversations. But
do you think as well, though, Errol, in terms of, because we're talking about the spine and what the future looks like, right? What I have noticed, though, is us as Liverpool fans, we cherish our players, right? We want to keep them forever for some reason. But for some reason, with the guys I've noticed, Salah, Virgil, and Alisson, by all right, they've done fantastic body of work for Liverpool Football Club, go down as legends. But sometimes I feel like we don't want to let go. And when is the right moment to let go? Because you just talk about TK, it's that these guys are going to need the opportunity to go, no, the weight's on your shoulder now. Here you go.
Well, I think it's almost been a blessing in disguise, some of the events that have happened this season, because I think I've started to notice that more in recent weeks, that the likes of Florian Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike are just more confident that they don't have to put everything through Salah. They are quite happy to take the mantle and the reins within a particular moment of a game and try and do things themselves. And Salah might be on the fringes of the play as opposed to being the focal point of the play. And I don't mind that. And hopefully, the more they deliver on when they do utilize that link-up play, hopefully, while Salah's still here, he looks at it and goes, well, actually, there's still a part for me to play. I can still do X, Y, and Z, even if I'm not the main. I still play an integral part as an elder statesman
100%,
to this squad. And that's what again, the sentiment side of me is like, that's what I want Salah to do, because then you can stick around and be a part of it for vibes. But equally, even if Salah was to be, thanked for his service and he left, towards the end of the season for, in one way or another, I'd be more confident that, well, these lads already know that they have got to take the bull by the horns. Now they've got to be the ones to take the fight on and continue to set those standards. So I do think that we've got the ability and the players there now to just kind of keep up that level of momentum. But it always comes down to, again, you've got to have, I always say, you've got to have good succession planning. So I always said, and maybe, Virgil, that is probably the right type of personality profile. He might get to a point where he wants to kind of like company for City, usher in the next defenders, but be around them enough so that they can learn from him and he can pass on the best of his knowledge to them and let them be his legs and let them do the running. And do you know what I mean? Like, he might be perfect for that. I think that's why we did the Mamardashvili and Allison thing. I think Mamardashvili, considering how good Allison's been, highlights was never going to do it justice. You needed to be in and around this guy, live and breathe in his environment, understand his training methods, his training regimes, everything that he puts himself through in order to prepare yourself to be in his shoes in 2 years. So I already see glimpses that Liverpool are arming themselves. And again, just to further that Allison point is, Allison had an extension on his contract that we're still going to activate. So it's not a case of we're just going to throw you into the fire, Mamardashvili. We're going to, make this work for your long term. But in order for it to work long term, you have to have that full extended period with that experience of him.
I agree with that.
And then we'll give you that chance, and then you'll have enough experience, enough time saved. You'll understand the club, the culture, everything around, and then you will be that go-to guy.
You'll be the main guy.
And your standards have got to be still up there. So from that perspective, that balance, how I deep it and how I look at it, I think succession plan is important. And I also think it's the transition and how these now elder statesmen choose to pass the baton. Some of them won't want to stick around and be mentors, quote unquote. Some of them will just very much want to be.
I would love, that's a part of the game I would love to do. If I'm heading out, final stretch home, final 100 meters, I want to be that elder statesman that goes, let me get this guy good. Let me make him. Let me leave my mark on him and do that.
I love that. That's why I said, like, that was a lot of the things I said about James Milner. It was a lot of what I said about Andy Robertson this season for Milos Kerkez. There have been examples where I think, not saying you could do it from front to back, but there are certain areas and certain players, and again, it comes from the player's willingness to want to move into that role and evolve and feel like they've got a big brother or a father-like role in the squad. Some players' personalities and their own not necessarily egos, but their own ambitions just don't allow for that. They have to leave the game to then come back with a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective to want to come back and start giving people a little bit of game and whatever else. So, yeah, I think Liverpool have got to look at the succession plan. I think that's going to be absolutely integral. And I think until we feel we've got a competent enough, settled centre-back partnership that isn't got contract issues, hasn't got injury issues, I think the likes of Errol has to stick around a little bit longer. I know you mentioned Salah and Alisson. I think the Alisson will get the extended contract, so I think he'll stay for another season. And Salah's probably the only one where I look at and think he might not really want to be anybody's mentor. He might just want to, get a massive reward for the service that he's done. Go over to, Saudi, where he'll be lauded and loved off to a completely different level. If Ronaldo goes and retires this season, or he goes to America if he's got plans to, they need a new face. League. They need a new face in that league. If that's then Salah's next, move in the world sport, then I wouldn't begrudge him of that. Do you know what I mean? It just means then the likes of Hugo Ekitike, Florian Wirtz, they have to step out of that shadow and reinvent themselves. But it wasn't a problem for Mane.
No,
and at the same time, Mane came in with the attack line wasn't fine and wasn't the best, so it was a little bit easier to leave an impression. But once you had competition, you held it down.
Do you know what we're speaking about the future, right? And Szoboszlai is one of the names that's come up as future leader, future captain. I'm looking at the squad now, and you're thinking about moving forward. Virgil's not going to be here for the next 5 years. Let's say he's going to be here for maybe 1, 2. Let's go 2 years. We got him for another 2 years. We need a successor. We need someone that's going to be, especially if Robbo leaves at the end of the season, we're going to need a new vice captain anyway. Is Sobo the main candidate now for that role? Or is there anyone else you're looking at in the squad and going, because for me, I don't want to give it to any of the elder statesmen now. I don't want to give it to the Alissons. I don't want to give it to a Salah. I feel like the time is now to, similar to what Klopp tried to do. He gave it to Trent because he felt, right, that's where we're going to next. That's the future, plan. That's the future successor as the captain of Liverpool Football Club. When you look now, who do you think? Because we're going to have a vice. I feel like we're going to have a vice captain at least in the summer, a new one. That's where
I think Robbo's obviously probably gonna go. He's out of contract. I can't see him getting given another one. So yeah, I think from a captain's perspective, I'm just trying to think now. It would have to be Dominic Szoboszlai for me. He'd be my first choice of just for captain's role.
Has anyone showed you anything apart from him to go, do you know what, that could be a leader there?
I don't mind. Depending on where Canate's head's at, I could see him being part of the leadership team. I think he's been around the squad. He knows what it takes from a defensive standpoint. I think he's performed at a very high level when he's been good for us. And again, I think as he just matures and he gets a little bit older, it might be something that he would consider. You'd obviously look at the likes of Curtis Jones, understanding the club, the fabric of the club, what it means, being local as well. You'd want him to be involved in some of the sort of leadership and taking on that added responsibility as he gets older. But I think in terms of a club captain, the next one, yeah, Ryan Gravenberch is still only young as well.
Yeah.
And I don't see him as... He's got a different personality to someone like Dominic Szoboszlai. Dominic Szoboszlai seems like he's obsessive of like trying to get the best out of himself.
I remember when Gerrard said he was obsessed. That clip came on my Instagram the other day about how obsessed he was of knocking people out of the way in training, and then if he didn't, then he would wake up the next day obsessed again about going into training.
About going in, yeah. So
like Szobo's like, he is like that. He wants to be the best within the squad.
Yeah, and definitely. And that's not to say that. And again, it's no slight on Gravenberch. I think he might just in 2 years fill out a little bit more, understand the position a little bit more, become the most complete and rounded midfielder that he just feels like, I'm that guy now. So now I'm confident to be that person. But in the here and now, obviously Dominic Szoboszlai is an easy candidate. He's the captain of his home country. Someone said to me the other day as well, I didn't even deep it. I said, I'm holding out for the Champions League this season. He said, we're going to win the Champions League this season. I said, you think really? He said, bro, let me tell you, it's in Dominic Szoboszlai's home city, back in front of his people in Budapest. You think we're not? He went, I've already booked me tickets. He said, I've already booked me hotels and me comms. And I was like, I didn't even click. But I'm like, yeah, I'm in. You've got me on the hook now. Do you know what I mean? So I think just obviously that's a side note, but I do genuinely think that, like, obviously captain of his national team, he understands, and I think he's been the victim of some poor Liverpool performances despite his individual brilliance this season.
Yeah,
I think the pressure very rarely seems to fold him. He seems to thrive in those circumstances, and I think, if you've got a player like that other players look up to and respect, he's definitely. And again, you want somebody that's a bit of a standard setter. All right, you want to be in this team. This is how much I run. Can you run as much as me? Then that's that, like, base level stuff. Like, Jordan Henderson wasn't the quickest. He didn't have the best shot on him. Didn't have the best passing range. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't have the best recovery speed. But in terms of his overall endeavour, which sometimes it's hard to quantify, but you look at it and you go, did you put more in than me today? And if you couldn't say yeah, or have an argument to say yeah, then he'd be like, well, you don't get in the team then. You're not like, that's the bare minimum. You've got to be that relentless with it. And I think somebody that sets such a high bar as a base level, as a floor, just means that everybody else then has to come and, in terms of athleticism and professionalism, has to be at that floor. And then you hope that their individual quality just takes them levels above the standard that's been set by somebody like Dominic Szoboszlai.
What about there's another thing that keeps hanging over Liverpool at the moment. The fans, we speak about it, if not all fans, they speak about this one position Liverpool need to fix.
The six.
I didn't even have to say more than that.
But that's what I said about Gravenberch before, whether he moves over to that left or he stays there and we get somebody else in midfield.
I think we're gonna need. We need. I say if we're gonna play in the way that I think we're gonna play, you need someone that has that defensive mindset. I feel like Gravenberch.
I'll add to that even more. I'll add to that even more. That quick ends before I let you finish.
Yeah.
Especially if we're not going to replace the level of centre back that Verge once was.
You're gonna need someone that's so. Gravenberch played that position in the title-winning season, I would say, really well, right? You say 6 months, he was at a top level. 6 months later, you could see that there was a depreciation in terms of his outputs, but I think that was more to do with maybe tiredness, shift of the system, teams were finding us out. We can put loads of different things in there. But since then, we've tried McAllister there, we've tried Curtis Jones there, Soboslai has gone there a few times as well. But it feels like we need a specialist in there. If we're going to play this, we're going to defend as the two centre backs and we need someone in front. If the double pivot, but someone seems to just venture away, you're going to need someone that's going to be in there and a bit disciplined and going, I'm going to make sure anything that comes in and around here, I'm sweeping and mopping this up. So Virgil or Jacquet or Canate or Gomez or whoever else, Leone, whoever else is here defensively, I'm going to make sure I clean this up before they even get involved. I think that's an area we have to fix in the summer if we want to build and go forward in the future. Because if we don't, we're going to keep trying
different variations.
We're just,
and it's never. And it might work in one-off moments, but if you're trying to build a body of work over the course of a season, that's why I keep going back to the spine. Having that continuity that very rarely chops and changes, that is the the baseline and the heartbeat of the team. That is so important, and I think that's why I said to you before, it will be interesting to see what happens from a midfield perspective if Grav moves left, because we end up bringing in that other person now to be a little bit more of a disciplined six. But then it also will come back to the formation that he chooses to play, and is it going to be 5 at the back with the wing backs? Is it going to be 4-3-3 again? There's going to be lots of question marks, and I think we might be pleasantly surprised that he just chooses to when we think it's going to go back to 4-3-3, he's going no, actually, Gravenberch and this person are going to split those roles, and the two that we're playing with are Szoboszlai and Wirtz. That's the real hub of that midfield. Get them the confidence, and then whoever comes in and sits behind them, some days it's going to be Gravenberch, some games it's going to be question mark player that we bring in that's a little bit more of a specialist. And it would then just be interesting to see how he's utilised, because I think there's probably conversations around Alexis McAllister's future come this summer, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Looks like maybe in Madrid, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe not. But I think I wouldn't be surprised I would be very surprised if Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, and McAllister were all Liverpool's mainstay midfield again for another season. And again, that same thing can be said for Curtis Jones, unfortunately, as much as I would love Curtis to stay.
I know.
Obviously.
That's why I'm up even you just saying that just then, because I want him to be, he's such a baller, man. But look, I want to shift it into, you did touch on it a little bit earlier in terms of the academy and the pathway. One thing we spoke about and we both agreed on, the style and system we had on the clock allowed the academy players to progress and come through. And like what you put it, one was like Coke, the other one was like Diet Coke. But you understood, they knew it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the same buzz you got, but you got close to it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But now I look at our team and I go, there isn't, for me personally, obviously I would love to know what you think, but for me personally, I don't see the clear pathway between the academy players and the first team. I don't see it, and I'm all for giving, do you know what I mean, the unknown the opportunity to go on there and shine on the world stage. And I don't want us to go to a club not like that.
Keller has stepped up, delivered. He was in that boat. Stefan Bissett saved us. Bradley came in. Trent before that. Curtis Jones has been a mainstay and a part of the graduate. So Liverpool's pathway over the last decade has probably been the best I've seen it since, again, I was a kid. I'm talking obviously the Manemans, the Owens, the Fowlers, the Gerrards, the Carragers, that crop of, even the Mellors, that crop of young talent that broke through. I think the closest I ever got in my early 20s was fucking John Flanagan. Do you know what I mean? And, Jordan Rossiters and a couple of men like that had a couple of moments, but never really was able to hold it down for, an extended period of time. Geordie's out for me, I'll be honest, Endz. I'm not 100% and again, I don't really like to write the young players off. But I'm not necessarily convinced that they are of the level yet. And I just think the philosophies of Slot versus Jurgen Klopp, the longer that they both or what's the right way of saying it? Like the longer that Klopp had done his reign, and now the longer that Slot's reign's intact, the more I see the differences between the two. So like Klopp was happy to sanction, or the people behind the scenes were happy to sanction for a Calvin Ramsey. Slot clearly doesn't rate him. So there'll be players that were kind of looked at and kind of given a bit of a nod or made a bit of a note of under Klopp's reign that Slot will have looked at now and just be like, that's not my profile.
Do you know what? Listen, I agree with what you just said in terms of obviously the manager will have. I don't think he's good enough. My problem is, and maybe it's just me, I want to see what he sees. I want to see him play, and then we go. Do you know what? Hold my hands up. Arne Slot, you're right. He's just not ready. He's not. I don't think he's good enough. He's not Liverpool. But we haven't been able to see that. And any honest fan would put their hand up and go, I haven't really. I've seen 15 minutes here, seen a 10-minute there. And when you've seen him play, he hasn't done bad.
I agree with you there.
You know what I mean? How can a fan go, he's not good enough for Liverpool yet? Well, and Arne Slot, obviously he sees him in training. Fairs, I get that. And he'll know a lot more.
He might be one of them players, and people always say, ex-pros always come out and say, you know, certain players just didn't train well. You know, they'd be getting instructions, they'd be getting told do X, Y, Z, and
they're just not on it.
They're just not on it. But you put them in an in-game situation, and it's different, and it's hard because certain players are like, you know people talking about the likes of, you know, Ronaldo at his time at Man United, and the likes of Rooney turn around and say he trained like he played on the weekend. Like that was the intensity you'd get out of him all the time. It's very difficult to be able to tap into that and to have that level of intent. But I think not only is that a question mark around Slot, I push back a little bit and say, well, that's on the squad as well. Like that's why I went back on the Rio point before. The squad, the elder squad, have got to curate the opportunities for those young players to get those minutes. And by that, I always mean go deep into the Carabao Cup as best as you can. But you've got to understand that, like, the deeper you go, you might end up playing, you know, Premier League teams. But if you get 2-3 rounds of lower league teams, there's 3 more games that are Rio. Not only, you know, you end up in a Prem team in a quarters or the 5th round, Rio might come off the bench. But if you end up with a lower league team, Rio might have played 3 games more than what he plays when you just get knocked out in the 1st round or the 2nd round. Same with the Champions League. If you've got the Champions League top 8 sewn up after 6 games, you've got 2 games there that you can utilise that bigger squad in order to field new players, give them experience where they wouldn't have otherwise have had. If Liverpool, especially under Arne Slot's particular style and brand of football, were managing games better, scoring goals earlier in games, and winning comfortably 2-3-0s, Rio would be getting more minutes off the bench. Liverpool as a squad this season have not curated, managed games well enough in order for young players to get those opportunities. And that's why I say it's all right to turn around and say the manager, but equally, how can a manager, he did it against Newcastle, how can a manager be expected to let someone with such a young potential be the go-to as a saviour? Oh, we need a goal. We're looking for a winner. Like, they're horrible situations to be throwing somebody into. You don't really get to learn your craft. You don't really get to make mistakes. You are very conscious that everything's got to go right in the little cameo that you're going to get. So I think the squad have got to do better at doing that, and that'll be from next season onwards. But then I also think that Slot's got to be a little bit braver when he's given those opportunities.
That's where I agree with. He has to be. Because I'm looking at games and you go, if Mo Salah Gakpo isn't cutting it for 60, 70 minutes, you're like, at some point you have to go, do you know what? They're not doing it today. Let's go and take a risk. Let's just go and be brave and give him the opportunity and see what he can come up with. And if he comes on and he doesn't offer anything either, but at least we can go, do you know what? We saw 60, 70 minutes of these guys. The first teamers didn't do anything anyway. So what we've got to lose, we've lost so many games this season as well. And I'm just like, in some of those games, if you were a little bit more braver, a little bit more, take a little bit more risk, you could have got something out of the games. And that's not to say he's the one on the pitch missing chances or not creating, but he's the one that sets up the team structurally, how we want to play, how we want to move forward in certain minutes, what substitutions we make, how we sit back in certain moments. So a lot of that is down to him. He's not the one kicking the ball. So that's why I would blame him for controls, people making silly mistakes. That's not him. That's down to the player individual and in that moment. But how we set up, how we want to play, how brave we are, the system that we're trying to use in and out of the game, that's down to him. And that's the moment when I'm like, you didn't even set us up in a way to win today. You set us up against a team that's going to do this, but you didn't put the right measures in place to protect us against these.
And the third thing for me, and this extends just beyond the academy as well, take your chance when you get your chance. And I know it's always easier said than done, but he gambled on the likes of Harvey Elliott last season and against Plymouth, and we fumbled bad. Harvey Elliott started, Diaz started, Chiesa started. There was a couple of other senior players in there. You look at the team, you thought that team had enough to go, but he didn't take the chance. And Slot remembered that. I gave you the chance to go and prove that the drop-off isn't that significant and that you can still carry the baton on when the first teamers are wrapped up in cotton wool because they've got bigger things to deal with in midweek. And they fumbled badly. So I think that message needs to be said to the academy prospects that come in. Be ready, stay ready. When you get your chance, take it with both hands. And I think Rio, someone in your comments there saying obviously that he scored against Newcastle. I think Rio did. He took that goal really well and he took his chance. And then it's for the players that just hover in the fringes of that team, because I don't think he's the most trusting in general, Slot. He doesn't give me those vibes that he's, he believes in your quality. Jurgen Klopp didn't love Shaqiri, but he always trusted that he had quality. Them ones. And I don't think the same can be said about Arne, Slot and Chiesa. And that's not to say that I disagree with why he's not trusted Chiesa, but we need players that are even going to be on the fringes, the Endos, the Chiesas, the Joe Gomez's, whoever else it may be. We need them to really come good when they get their opportunities and show that they're hungry to be included within more games than what they're getting. Almost be a bit pissed off that they're not actually getting the right level of opportunity.
I need to see that a little bit.
So it's a three-pronged approach for me. It's manager being a little bit braver, the overall squad given the opportunities and creating the chances, and then anybody on the fringes of that first team, when they get those opportunities, grab them with both hands, because this manager might not be giving you 9 lives. I mean? You might be getting 1 or 2 and to leave your mark and leave your impression, and you've got to make good of that because the season's long, and I'm fed up of just seeing names on the subs bench that you just know I've got no chance of making an impact or coming in to change the game.
So what do you think then, in terms of from a recruitment standpoint? I was thinking, what does the model that we've used in previous years hold up, but we slightly tweaked it summer gone because we spent a shitload of money then? I don't know. Do we keep with that new model in terms of just spending spending loads of money to get the team to the level it's at, and then we go, let's take a step back now. He's got enough. Whoever the manager might be, you've now got enough to go and take this team going forward. And I'm looking at, how many players are we away from that era we was talking about in terms of that domination? We've got a good squad. We've got a good team, but it needs a squad.
But bro, we're gonna lose. So so let's keep it. Joe Gomez. This is who I think potentially. Joe Gomez.
Yeah.
Potentially Curtis Jones, Alexis McAllister, Mohamed Salah. You're likely to lose Chiesa. You're probably did I already say Gomez?
You said Gomez, yeah.
You may still lose Konate. Connor Bradley could be on the chopping block just due to injuries.
Yeah.
Let's just stop there. Say there was about 7, nearly 8 players that we lose.
Robbo. Did you say Robbo?
Robbo as well, yeah. So there's definitely 7 or 8 that is definitely we're going to lose. All of a sudden, that is the quality of the depth that we had. We've got to replace that squad quality before we then start to add starting 11 quality.
So do we go back to the old school one, the 30-40 million pound?
I think we have to. I think we're good. Yeah, I think there'll be a mixture of two of those strategies coming together and playing hand in hand, I think there might be two that you look at and go, right, the 6 is going to be the one. I always say transformative players. Will the board will be prepared to do the business that gets the squad and to keep the squad quality to the highest overall squad quality that they can
Right.
get, pound for pound, value for money. They will then look where in the market they can find one or two transformative players that they think bridge Liverpool from that class bracket to
Hmm.
world class bracket. And that's what they will hopefully try to do. And then, like I said to you before, it will all then come down to individual or the squad collective drive and ambition, come down to a little bit of good luck. It'll very much come down to the identity and the system that Arne Slot then deploys, and then it'll come down to the results on the pitch. If all those things catch fire and we're off to a winner, then yeah, we're primed for more success and hopefully dominance. If we fall short in a couple of those areas, it then might have to be a pivot to be like, okay, this player doesn't quite work out, he doesn't quite fit, not really what the manager wants. Is he the right manager to get the best out of these players? Do we have to look at that situation? Then you start. That's not all of a sudden. That's not plan A, is it? That's plan B, and you're being very reactive. It's very reactionary, and you're trying to put out fires as opposed to future proofing where fires may already start. So let's put sprinklers over there and fire extinguishers there, and we're already assessing the situation. So it'll be interesting because, like I said, I genuinely felt at the start of this season that, all we need, if we go out and just absolutely bully the league and just do it in a cancer again, next year it's even easier to get those extra players in. Nobody's going to want to leave. So anybody that we want to stay will stay. You're not prizing no players away. I think it's a little bit more up in the air. So I think it's very open to interpretation of what dominance will actually look like and whether it'll just be regaining a level of respect to a respectable level. Or whether it will be more okay. Liverpool are having. Oh yeah, someone said Gakpo as well. Gakpo could be on the way out. So there's definitely going to be plenty of movement. I think the incomings, the bulk of them will be, I want to say just squad fillers, but players that bolster the squad and remain at that quality and that level. And there'll be a few gems that get sprinkled in to give the new spine that belief that they're still serious. They're still adding in that level of quality.
Now, listen, big up to the chat. Appreciate you guys as always. I want you guys to get involved now. I know you guys have been sitting there listening to the conversation between me and Errol as well, but I'm thinking the 30 million mark. You look around the Prem now, because I feel like we'll go into the Prem a little bit and then maybe we'll venture out. I think for those marquee type, we might venture anywhere to go and try and get those type of players. But looking around now, like Errol just said, you're talking about 6 or 7 players leaving. What does the squad looks like then? And then you've got to bolster that with.
We're not going to recruit big money on some of those outgoings either. The only ones really might be Alexis, Gakpo, and Salah might really be the only ones where you're looking north of 40 mil. Do you know what I mean? Gakpo's probably the cheapest. Alexis, you might still get 50 mil for. Saudi might come in and try and give us 60, 70, 80 mil for him. But then Robbo goes on a free. Gomez could go on a free. Canate could go on a free. Chiesa's going to go for buttons. Curtis Jones, okay, he'll get a respectable fee, but I still think it still probably won't make Liverpool fans very happy if he was to go for like 35, 40 mil. I don't think anybody would be excited about that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting because Liverpool are going to have to shop savvy again. I just think financially we're going to have to shop savvy, and this is where it's going to be really important that Slot has a very clear vision of what he wants his identity to be, because you might have to get players that aren't quite at the level yet, but with 6 months experience, 6 months under the belt, they then start to show why, okay, yeah, we went and spent 25, 30 mil on this one, and we spent 35, 40 mil on that one. Okay, it's starting to make sense again.
Who's out there right now? If I just said 3 players off the top, from like around that price tag, you think, right, Liverpool could potentially go in and get this player to add to this squad, if there's anyone you can think of.
Problem is, I can't think of anyone at that price point, to be honest with you. Players that I do like the looks of it, I think would work. Morgan Rogers, but he's just gets slapped with a silly price tag. Believer already been slapped with a silly price tag. Elliot Anderson.
He's been slapped with a silly
But
one.
I'm hoping that Forest go down and then there's a fire sale over it.
Well, we can help with that on Sunday, but
yeah. Do you know what I mean? I hope that there's a little bit of a fire sale on there. That enables us to get him on a little bit of a discount fee. Murillo from Forest as well. I like him. Don't think he'd be our type of centre half, in all fairness, but I like him. I think he'd be a fairly decent option. That's the Prem. Maybe the likes of that Mane from Wolves. I've heard rumours about him in terms of being a bit of a winger option. I think he's the type of person or player that you'd get for about 35 mil now, because he's not blowing up. He's not obviously going to be in the league next year. They're going to want to take a little bit of dough for him. My French league knowledge is absolutely awful. Couldn't tell you anybody that's playing over there that's doing half decent. And likewise the German league. So, Tonali again. I've seen his name being floated about in the chat, but again, he's going to.
Why is he being floated about though? Because I'm like, isn't he not settled at Newcastle?
He is, yeah.
Why would they sell another talent to us?
They're going to have to. They're going to be doing that every year. Trust me. They're not it's not all rosy over there the way that they make out. Like, they're going to have to keep selling, because again, they've promised those players big things, and season in, season out, they're disappointed and they're failing to deliver. Who else was the one? Gordon, again, another one, but hit with a big price tag. So, because I'm already out the loop with players and what their values are, I will really struggle to give you players that I think hit that niche. But I think any of those players that I've just named, they're all north of 60 mil. So I could see if Liverpool see. I think that's the bracket where Liverpool might think, well, they're the next transformative players. Apart from the likes of that Mane, there might be a couple at his level where people think, yeah, he might be good. They might go back in for Braithwaite, but again, he's been quoting like 65 something silly millions from Everton as well. So it's going to be a bit of a difficult one to really get the value for money in the market from the Premier League in the next window. But we've got to look to try at least prize a couple of players away from. I like doing it from the clubs that are in and around you, really. If we can get Van der Ven from Spurs potentially, players like of that ilk as well that want to leave and want to come. It'll be interesting to see, but I'm more bothered about the system and how he gets the right players for what he wants. I'm not really bothered about the name. The name means, as I say, it's great when you're a kid, when you've got a whale beaten as a name, and you see when we've done it. Like, even Thiago was brilliant. It was like, oh, we've got Thiago, but I'm more bothered about, like, all right, can you come in and can you deliver the role? I think, like, we could have got a name as a left back last season, or we could have went and got a bigger name for a right back after Trent left, to be like, all right, Trent's leaving, we're going to go get Hakimi. You know what I mean? But it was like, no, we've got a clear plan. And even though we might not have been able to enact it this season, they felt at the time that there was a plan to at least have like flying fullbacks that would get on the touchline, get wide, get to the byline, that type of profile. So they was happy to go for a Jeremy Frimpong. So yeah, it'll be interesting. It really will, because I'm not overly precious about the names that get banded about. I know people say Bastoni, people say the likes of Ederson. Who else? Who's the German? Is there a German defender that everyone keeps throwing out a name about? Some German kid. I don't know if he is German, but I think he plays in Germany.
I haven't seen it. Maybe the chat.
I'm sure he's some German defender. I can't even think of what his name is, but I'm sure he's playing over there. I think he plays for Leverkusen, I want to say. Slot, yeah, there it is. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm not big up, man. Like, honestly, yeah, because I'm not like overly precious, because I don't watch enough of those. If we come up against the Champions League, or if they're playing against the big team, yeah, man, everyone's on it. From Dortmund, it is, yeah. Like, I'll watch, but I don't watch their body of work. You might now, when it gets close to rumour time, see highlight reels and clips, but I don't really take too much from them.
He's a top defender if we get him.
I've been done with clips like that before for many. I'm not going to be that guy again. But yeah, that's, to me, it's like, do they fit the profile, and will they get given a fair crack of the whip to prove that they have got what it takes? That's all I'm bothered about.
What if you fast forward then 2028? What's Liverpool's starting 11?
2028, right?
Yeah, 2028. So 2 years time, basically. 2 years time.
I think the front three will be a very compact diamond-less front three, and it will be Isak, Ekatike, and Wirtz. I think the width will come from the wing backs. I think it'll be Dominic Szoboszlai. I think it'll be Ryan Gravenberch. I think Ryan Gravenberch moves into the left side of that midfield at that point.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
I that basically turns into an out and out all round, box to box midfielder. I think we have the holding midfielder as a specialist in there. Name to me at this moment in time is unknown. Wouldn't mind a young one, to be honest with you. Like a Wharton, again, Adam Wharton, somebody like that, but again, going to come with a big price tag. So the Liverpool see him as the transformative player or a squad player, who knows? But somebody like that. So let's say somebody of that ilk. I think it will be Kirkes. I don't think it'll be Bradley. I think Frimpong will be in the squad. And I hope that he's the starting fullback as well, right wing back or right back.
Yeah, because it would fit in perfectly then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the balance would be good. I'd have Mamadashvili in goal, obviously. And if I'm being honest with you, either Leoli or Jack Hurt.
Yeah.
If it was my first choice, it would be extending Konate of last season to 2028. If Konate chooses to leave, then we have to go and get a Bastoni or a Slotterbeck or somebody that we look at and say, right, you're the next coming of Konate or Virgil van Dijk. And that would be the makeup of my Liverpool team for 2 years' time.
Yeah, I think that's food for thought for most people to have a think, because by the time we blink, it will be around the corner. You'd be like, well, all the guys that we're so used to is no longer in the squad, and now we've got the new era of players playing in this system and this new team. So, but big up to Barath for the supers. It says big up Endz, big up. It says Endz with Konate and Sobo's deal still not being tied up. What does this really mean? I know where that comes from. And every season it seems like Liverpool have contract issues with key players. What does it really tells us? I know where that comes from as well. So in terms of tying up the two deals, Konate's, it just shows from listening to the round table and said they plan, in a year in advance. That's what the wording was. They plan in a year in advance. The fact that we haven't tied these guys up, that means it shows lack of planning. And if we, like what me and Errol just spoke about, the execution now, you're not only worried about players' contract running out, but there's about 6 or 7 players potentially leaving. But then you need some incoming players. But then by the end of that year, you already have another issue arising. So I think probably we need to make sure those contracts are definitely sorted. And for me, I don't care about the finance side. The money doesn't come out of my pocket, and I don't think it's going to make Liverpool broke or go into any financial dispute. So just pay the players. Just pay them. Obviously, I'm not saying Konate should get 500-600 grand, but he's definitely about 250. You know what I mean? He's definitely about. There's players out there that's won nothing. That's on that. There's players out there that's not even put in the body of work.
Saka's on 300k. Easy, just that what's he won? One FA Cup that he started on the bench. And
then we spoke about Sobo being a future captain. You make sure you secure that. You make sure you lock that in. And in terms of us leaving it late and causing an issue, what does that tell us? Bro, as I said, it's just lack of planning for me. We just need to make sure we secure these players. And there was a good comment, one of my brethren, Zabiri and Cal, from Coppish, made a point. Why don't we do the year-on-year increase on contracts? I know it's probably sounds crazy and difficult to kind of do, but if, like what Chelsea did with Palmer, he had a great season. They put him up a little bit more. So instead of making these massive jumps after 3 years, and you're wondering, why is he getting an increase of another 150 grand? But if body on body, year on year, the work was, and we get, okay, that's a 50 grand increase this year. That's another. When we get to the end of it, the player is not going to be in this like, I'm not paid, or valued or not. Do you know what I mean?
I'll be honest, I struggle. I'm probably the worst person to talk to when it comes to money and contracts, because it just washes over my head. I'm like, I don't pay them their money. It doesn't come out of my mind. Pay them their peas.
Pay them the money, man.
I just pay the money. But I do, you know,
Big up, Shaw.
I am led to believe that there is a complex financial situation at Liverpool. Obviously, PSR or whatever it is impacting our ability to do certain things. And you know, when you spend all of this, and to me, it's just like all of a sudden, I'm not talking football no more. I'm talking Excel spreadsheets and finance. And boy, I didn't even pass maths GCSE, our kid. So you're doing too much as soon as we start going down that end of things for me. But I understand it's very common sense in that approach of just the incrementals. I like the incentive ones, mate. That's the model that I prefer the most. It's like deliver on the pitch, whatever number you want. Santa turns around and says, well, at the end of the season, I want a £5 million bonus if I score 35 goals or more. 5 million, I'll make it 7. Do you know what I mean? Go and score 35 million, or you just get your base salary. Go score 35 goals, or just get your base salary. It's on you then. It's in your hands. And look, obviously, there's always mitigating circumstances. If Salah was to then get injured for 3 months out of a season or 6 months out of a season, but had scored some silly numbers, then you can retrospectively look at it and think, okay, yeah, trajectory-wise, you may have been on course. You'll get a percentage of what you.
Yeah, we'll give you a percentage.
Joey, there's ways to be cute and clever with contracts like that, but the incentive should still remain the same. It's like, all right, you want that you as a back four, if you're part of the back four and you've played 80 to 90% of the campaign, and you've got the most clean sheets, you'll all get a 50% bonus on your salary come the end of the season. Go out and do it. Go out and, you get me? If you want your money and that's what you want and you're interested in the money can be there to be earned, but you've got to go and earn it. And the only person you can look at come the end of the season, if you haven't got the money in the bank, is yourself, dog. And I'm fine with that. And I wouldn't mind doing that if I was a. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's easier said than good. You know what you guarantees, but getting 200 grand a week as a guarantee is not a bad life to live.
Not a bad life, man. It's not a bad wage.
So if you can double that bubble coming in a year's time because you've been putting in the performances, then you've earned every single penny in my eyes.
Nah, facts. But look, the future of Liverpool won't be defined by the summer. No. It might not even be defined by the manager itself, man. But we need some structure, we need some stability, and we need a direction. And I think for most Liverpool fans, I think that's the most important now. And then we'll see how we go with the new era underneath, whoever the manager might be from the summer, and the new players and the new captain and the new direction. But Errol, man, appreciate you, bro.
Thank you every single time, man. Thank you for having us on. Really appreciate it, man. Keep putting out some good content and doing the work that you're doing.
Appreciate it, bro. But listen, chat, look, another one down. Tomorrow, the fun doesn't stop, man. Tomorrow is quiz night. You guys already know what time it is. 8:30. Come back here, quiz night, Kahoot, 30 questions, and I will have a bad boy panel. I have most of the people that we used to do the quiz night with. Most of them, if not all of them, are going to be back as well. So you're going to see some of the girls back. The guys are going to be back. Should be some fun. You guys in the audience can take part as well. I think last week someone won from the audience as well, man. But hopefully this week someone from the panel, because I don't know, some of you guys be cheating still. I don't know if you.
I'm terrible. I'm glad you don't invite me to quiz night. Quizzes. My brain just disappears, lad. And then randomly, I'll have the most, like, you know, when you just have the most random little bit of knowledge that just pops into your head, and you're like, why do I know this random fact? As soon as you ask a list of questions, my brain just goes, cool.
But the beautiful thing of it is, right, when we do it in Kahoot, so you got different.
Yeah. I know what Kahoot is, bro.
Yeah, bro. It vibes.
It goes off because you try to fight to get the most points. And it's mad.
And then some people are complaining to me like, I didn't see it. People are like, I didn't see it in time. I'm like, whoa, that's not me.
Yeah,
I'll put it on screen. You guys know how it does. You get 20 seconds. Get the question. Bang, get first to the answer, gets the most points. But for some reason, they still blame me, man. But this week's one should be fun, man. So obviously, I'm not going to give away what questions are, but I think, being the quiz master, I think it's fun. And I always look at the quizzes going, where would I finish? Sometimes I look at them, I'm like, I'm definitely not winning this one. Because I'm like, I did not know that. And it's jokes. So there's some spelling ones as well. And the spelling ones is jokes. I remember not last week, the week before, someone spelled carbon dioxide, but they spelled it correctly, but they put the words together. So he got it wrong. Yes. And it was a double point question as well.
Oh, you'd be vexed.
Yeah,
That can't be me. I crash out in those type of settings. Nah, I'm not good. I'm not good.
But Errol, the people know who you are, but if they don't know who you are, where can they find you, bro?
Yeah, most of the content that I kind of platform and put out is through Redmen TV. So you'll catch me on watch-alongs over this side. Socials is Errol 0051, and that's across the likes of Twitter and Instagram. If anybody's interested in just kind of keeping up with me on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and that's pretty much it. To be honest with you, float between obviously like Endz's channel, the catch up, Dan Potter's 12th man. So anytime you see me and pull up, just big up our thing, and I'll big up you guys in the comments as well every time. So thank you.
Big up to Barra for the big supers, man. Surely part of the building and sustaining the title winning squad is to being able to keep as many of your key players in your key squad as possible. I agree with that as well. In Liverpool's case, it seems the opposite. Is it the opposite? We lost Trent, Diaz. Sad passing of Jota, so I wouldn't even class that. But other than that we were right. I think on the clock we kept a hold of a lot of players. I think a lot of players that naturally would want to just move on because they feel like Liverpool's a stepping stone stayed and we built a good squad. I think a lot of them left through maybe age, Milner, the Hendersons, the Fabs. They couldn't do it. Bobby left, Ox left. But I think it was more because they couldn't offer much more after that, in my opinion. Never know so many players from a title-winning squad. Gutted with the speed of our squad has and will be. Hopefully, bro, I'm just hoping that this squad that we're building now can give us back what we originally wanted or what we originally had. I'm just hoping.
I wanted to go more than. I think there was, yeah. But again, I think luck and everything else will play a part in that. Just a quick one, a question for you. Is your quiz just Liverpool based or is it wider football?
Nah. It's general knowledge, bro.
Okay, so it's not even just football.
Nah, bro.
Right. Well, I've got a football question for you that I'm going to throw in the private now. Yeah. Because it's just come up.
I might add it as a bonus then.
Yeah. From Errol. Yeah. How many assists?
Oh, hey, don't say it because these guys might go research.
Yeah.
They're gonna read. Nah, but Barath, bro, I appreciate the supers, man. I appreciate the gesture and dropping that on the channel, man, and the support. But yeah, look, as I said, the only part I would say, I think once we had Klopp, we weren't losing as many as the players that we would have lost, like the Torres when he was like, nah, this ain't good enough. I'm moving Suarez. I think I can get better, so I left. But when Klopp came in, I felt like the only times, well, Coutinho was probably the only one you'd say probably went, I could go and do better at Barca. Other than that, most of them stayed and they left because of probably the age, just age getting older in it. And I think under Arne slot, the idea is to try and keep as many of them as possible in the team.
I think that as well, to be fair as well. A lot of them had been under Klopp and only played under Klopp like Jed. Some of them just wanted a new challenge as well. But at that point, and it didn't matter who we'd have brought in, that was a good opportunity for them to feel like I can close that chapter, I can go elsewhere. So obviously there's a new chapter being opened, there's a new Liverpool 2 point whatever. And when Slot has got, you don't want Szoboszlai saying, all right, I'm going to go somewhere else. You don't really want, unless we are happy for McAllister to go, we don't really want McAllister to go, and so on and so forth. You want to keep Gavin Birch. Unless you want Gakpo to go, you don't really want them to leave. So Liverpool have got to be a little bit clever in the way that they retain some of their mainstay players, as the gentleman there said, in terms of the key players.
Nah, listen, appreciate it, man. But listen, let's get out of here. I'll save it and I'll add it as a bonus question tomorrow.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to say it because a few of the guys I know is in the chat that take.
They'll be back. They'll be back. Yeah. They'll be back.
Been in there doing the utmost. Like, I'm ready for this last question just in case. So I appreciate it. But big up to yourself, man. And guys, I'll see you guys tomorrow, God willing, man. Peace.